K-Wave 6 Radio and our host Kirk Spencer welcome you to our show bringing positive messages to today's world. And now, here's Kirk.
Good morning. I want to start the show off today with some hellos to some listeners. I posted this in the blog the other day. If you give me a little shout out of hi in an email, I'll be glad to read your name. So I'm going to start with just 3 people that I know that listen, which is Lani in the Philippines. Hello, Lani. Thank you for listening. And Melanie in Florida. Thanks, Melanie. Glad to hear, or glad to see that you're listening. And a friend of mine in Mexico here, Barbara in Mexico. Thank you, the 3 of you, and all of those who have yet to send in hellos. And if you send in your hello, I'll be glad to read your first name and at least your country, city or state if you prefer, on our show on month Tuesdays and Thursdays. Not for Thoughts for Growth, just Tuesdays and Thursdays. So anyway, start with that. I do appreciate all of our listeners, and this is just my way of giving back a little bit to say thank you very much for being here. Today's show is just me, and I'm just going to kind of expound on other thoughts that I have. I was thinking about putting them in Thoughts for Growth, or did I want to expound on them? And I kind of thought, let's expound on them a little bit more. Let's give a little bit broader view. As you know, in yesterday's Thoughts for Growth, we're talking about life. So I'm going to kind of continue with that thought at this moment, which is to continue with life is a gift. But many of us seem to take this gift as if it was a wedding gift or birthday gift that we just, I can't stand this gift. I think I'll just save it and I'll give it to somebody else when I go to their party, whether it's their wedding or their birthday party or some other occasion, just to get rid of this without being insulting to the person who gave it to me in the first place. And there's a little story about how it just went around. Somebody gave a gift and it went around, and it ended up getting right back to the person that gave it originally. And I can imagine the person felt a bit insulted by the fact that it just came back to them. But here we have a life, and life, if you want to see it, is a gift or an obligation. I don't know how you particularly take a look at it, but it's something that was given to us in a physical form, and that's the way I'm going to take it right now. But I'm saying in a physical form because if you want to look at it the way many indigenous cultures have looked at this throughout the years, it's nothing new upon earth, just probably something that has been rehashed, rekindled, and thrown away because, face it, we live in a technological age. So we probably, speaking in generalities for a population of over 7 billion people, we probably have a way of looking at life in general to say we live and we die and that's all there is. But many indigenous cultures know and understand that the spirit of man, or the soul, whichever you choose to say, is something that is of energy. And most of us know that energy is not something that you can create or kill or sequester someplace. The most we as humans can use or do with energy is we can manipulate it. Now, we know this from electricity. Where's George Carlin? I use him a lot, but he had a way of looking at life that most of us refuse to see. George Carlin says electricity that's in your walls is nothing more than controlled lightning. In fact, that's pretty much true. It's just lightning that comes through at a particular amperage and voltage, and it's something we've learned to live with, something that we can control. But the ancient Chinese understood it on a level such as Tai Chi, Qi Kung, and whatnot. Being able to manipulate energy just from thought. Let's just go from thought. Even though some of that is through movement, through exercise, keeping what they call qi channels open, and being able to use this ability to use the energy that flows through each and every one of us. Some people prefer to deny that as well. But this is the part that I'm getting at, is here you have the gift and you prefer to deny what is in existence. It's a thing of, if life wasn't something that you were living, you would probably deny it because you can't understand it. Science these days is looking at life as we know it and saying, okay, we can explain everything from the atom up, from the nucleus up. We know how to build a body through science. We know the physical. What science is admitting these days is now they're trying to understand, what is consciousness? Because obviously we're not our bodies. Our bodies is just the expression of who we are. But we spend so much time looking at our physical selves, we neglect that which drives the body. So what is consciousness? What is spirit? What is the soul? Just with that, I would assume that there's probably a lot of people that have a definition, and it's probably going to be a definition that's different from other people. But what is this consciousness? And that in itself can lead you to ask, in very general terms, what is God? I've heard people say that they believe that God is some old man floating around in space and watching us. Which, even in my mind, just kind of goes, some old man floating around in space watching 7 billion people. Let's take a look at life from a different point of view. And I don't know if I'm going to continue or how long I'm going to continue this thought, but those of you who know anything about biblical writings, I'll put it that way, Ezekiel's wheel within a wheel within a wheel. We could go on this one for quite some time, but it's not quite my thought this morning, but we'll see where we go. The wheel within a wheel within a wheel. We are talking about how we can actually, let's say, cross this with a thought of so as above as below. I butchered that one, but I'm sorry, but I think you know what I'm trying to say here. As is above, so is below. There we go. So, if we look at life and see that everything seems to replicate itself, we have or should I say, we live in a solar system. The star rotates on its own. We rotate around the star. So do all of our sister planets. We live life on a physical scale, made up of atoms, nucleus, and we have these little nuclei that circles another cell, like our sun. For those of you who understand fractals, fractals are just way plants grow in circular form. You take a look at a tree, you cut a tree, and you see that there are rings to tell about ages. There are so many different ways of looking at this. It's just the wheel within a wheel, a life within a life. We have spoken about this, or I've spoken about this in previous shows, about how we seem to repeat cycles. The only thing that makes this cycle any different from any other cycle are the smaller details. We are living in a time which resembles the fall of Rome. And the question always comes up, have we learned anything from history? I would venture to say that we have learned very little, if anything, from nature. From our previous lifetimes, from history itself. Because we're still repeating the same problems. We're trying to control one another. We're trying to well, let's go back to life as a gift. Life being a gift, I used to wonder as a child, why do my parents pay for water when it falls out of the sky, when the river runs close to the house? Why do we pay for this? Why do we pay for food? All of this was given to us for free. Okay, as I began to get older, I started looking at how, if somebody grows food and they put their time and effort into it, they want to get something back for growing their food. Maybe they grow corn and I grow tomatoes. The other person grows potatoes. Fine. We can trade off some fictitious value, which is money, and we can trade. Fine, I understand that. But water? I couldn't understand. Why do we have to pay for water? Why do we have to pay for land? Especially, you own the house, now you have to pay a yearly property tax. Yeah, as we get older, we accept things that maybe we shouldn't accept. Because as we see right now in our lives, we have people that cannot pay property taxes. They cannot pay other taxes. So they're kicked out of their homes, or they're put into jails because you're not paying your taxes. So everybody else that's paying taxes has to pay for that person to live in a prison. Well, back in the late 1980s when I lived in Chicago, I believe it was the Chicago Tribune newspaper wrote an article, and I wish I could remember the title. It was I like the title, put it that way. But it was talking about kids that were on the revolving door of living free and living in prisons. And reading the article, in short, basically was just saying these kids lived on that revolving door of living on the street and living in prison because they had no other alternative. They grew up without an education, so they couldn't get a job. So to live and to survive on the street, they had to resort to crime because they couldn't get a job. So when they resorted to crime, they had money. Hardly. It was gotten very hard, but nonetheless, they had some sort of a living. They had something to do. They got caught, they'd go off to jail. It wasn't a bad thing for them because the way they looked at it was, I have a job in jail, I have 3 meals a day, I have a shower, and I have clean clothes. The only thing that they lost in essence was the freedom for other social activities with people that they knew. This is the world that we live in now. We were given a gift and we accept that somebody has told us this is how you're supposed to live. This is who you pay money to, and this is the reason why. And we accept it. This is why many people, from George Carlin to Gandhi to you name it, have always told us to question everything. Question everything. Life is a gift. Have you given it away? Or are you going to take responsibility for what you have and say, enough is enough. We need to get on with our lives. We're going to pause for our commercial break and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Al Sussman, the author of Changing Times, 101 Days That Shaped a Generation, published by Parading Press. And you're listening to the always interesting Kirk Spencer on K-Wave 6 Radio.
Do you need a website or a webmaster for your business or hobby? A wordsmith for a research paper or for a script, an article, or for a language translator? Do you need an audio or visual project created or edited? Contact K-Wave 6 Productions at www.kwave6productions.tk for all your website, writing, audio, and visual needs. Our rates are competitive and our services are excellent. That's K-Wave 6 Productions at www.kwave6productions.tk or email us at info@kwave6productions.tk.
Hey everybody, this is Suzanne Perry, founder of LoveShouldn'tHurt.tv. You're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio.
Hello and welcome back. Just before our commercial break, we were talking about life being a gift. And I'd like to continue with that thought in relationship to the fact that we were born on a planet, and the planet is our home. And throughout history, we can see two things unfolding. One, the planet is our gift. It is part of who we are. If you want to look at it from a biblical sense, we are made of the earth. So this is our home. This is the stuff we are made of. And when the Spirit was breathed into the nostrils, that is our spirit. That which makes us a soul. And we take this gift our gifts, and we rationalize it. We allow others to say, we're going to privatize the water, we're going to privatize this, we're going to privatize that. Privatization is nothing more than control. Somebody saying to you, I have the right to privatize, I have the right to own this, and I will buy you out, which means now you work for me. We have gone from people who are sentient beings and given away our freedom just so somebody else can dictate to us what is and what is not. These same people can tell you what to believe, how to believe, what to buy, what not to buy, when to do what, and it is just, talk about a wheel within a wheel, it just continues to go. And this has been going on for such a long time, it's a dizzying rate that we have to deal with it today. What is freedom? It is the freedom to be yourself. We've lost that. We are so confused today that we don't know what is right. We're arguing over little details from something that some men, who knows how long ago, have made up laws to. And now, in this society, if you want to call it that, we call it a society. In the society that we live in, we have now men and women telling us what is right, what's wrong, and how we should live it. Which kind of brings me back to an old subject of love, unconditional love, versus conformity. I don't know how many of you have ever heard a parent or a loved one, your wife, your husband, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, say, if you love me, you would do this. I don't understand why you don't do this. If you love me, you would do this. That's not love. That is someone trying to manipulate you. That is someone trying to get you to conform to something that they want you to conform to, not unconditional love. The easiest way that I look at unconditional love, because I don't feel that you need to go through a whole encyclopedia or an encyclopedic dictionary to understand what is unconditional love. Unconditional love, at least for me, is nothing more than I can love everyone and everything. Everything that exists has a right to live. Even the mosquito, which I hate, but it's about the only creature I hate is a mosquito. But, the whole existence of a mosquito is nothing more than to suck the blood of another mammal. I don't like that. But, okay. Be that as it may, everything has a right to live because everything was created for a purpose. And that being the case, if everything was created for a purpose, then I can love it unconditionally. I can love a mosquito. I don't need it to conform. I don't need it to say, please drink water and stop poking holes in me and making me itch. It was created for a reason. Trying to change a mosquito is like trying to change somebody else to be what they're not. I don't need you or anybody else to love me to give you unconditional love. So, I can say that is respect, because you are created the same way that I was. From the earth, or in our present age, by two parents, a mother and a father. That's how we are born. That's how we're created these days. Okay? So, instead of trying to get somebody to conform to my way of thinking, it's you have the right to believe as you want to believe. And so do I. If we disagree, then let's just part as friends, or at least as acquaintances. We've already met each other. I don't like the way you think, I don't like the way you live, but that doesn't mean I need for you to change to be like me. Maybe you just see something differently. If we can sit down and talk about it, maybe we can understand each other. Then we can move from there. If not, okay. But I don't need to fight you. I definitely don't need to kill you. Let's just live peacefully. That's unconditional love. I don't need you to conform to my way. I don't need you to be, as we see these days, to be the same religion as me. I'm not going to behead you because you chose not to be of the same religion as me. I am not going to yell and scream at you and curse at you because you don't believe as me. I am not going to put you off into some far distant corner and essentially just deny your existence because you happen to be a person that lives in the same sex relationship. These are things, some of them are choices, some of them are not choices. But the point is, I didn't create any of you. My only responsibility is that you and I were born of the same material. We live on the same planet, and I should give you the room to be you as long as you're not harming me or anyone else. Simple rules. With that, I'm going to take another break, so stay tuned, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Candy Leonard, author of Beatleness, How the Beatles and Their Fans Remade the World, and you're listening to K-Wave 6 Radio with Kirk Spencer.
Hi, this is Pat Kammer, author of Love's Voice Changes You, Book 1. And I now have Book 2, which is called Hello Awesome, Message from Spirit in Pat's Patters. Buy your book from Amazon.com.
Are you ready to put an end to thinking about how you wish it were and take action? Take this step to find out more by going to coachingbyria.com. And you can receive your free consultation session with Coach Ria. Coach Ria is a certified professional life coach with a passion to help make the difference in the world.
Hi, this is Lisa Avebury, and I am with Sacred Introvert Retreat Tours. We're heading off to Glastonbury this May, and we hope you'll join us. So check it out, sacredintrovert.com. And I'm at K-Wave 6 Radio, and I'm feeling super honored and blessed to be here. Have a beautiful day.
To wrap up our show today, since I'm doing this solo, We've covered, well, covered quite a bit, at least for me. I do want to recap a couple of things. Life is a gift. This planet is our home. Many of us are yelling at people to wake up. And I suppose in some respect, unconditional love is saying, you have the right to be asleep, if you so choose. But that is your choice. I say that because many people don't seem to understand that many people in general would rather be on the side of wrong just so they can live easily. It is, as we were saying, or as I was saying before, about the youth, well, it used to be the youth back in Chicago back in the 1990s, late 1980s, where you had this revolving door of going between prison and the streets. We live now in a world where everybody talks more about what we don't have rather than what we have, as in roughly 10, 15 years ago, when there was more people earning a very good income, $80,000 as a family income was nothing unheard of 10 years ago. Back in 2008, when the government was so generous with the banks and so stingy with the population, now we see poverty pretty much everywhere. And just like in 1929, when the United States Wall Street fell, so did a majority of the world. Everybody that was working on the same financial system felt the same problem. The world has felt the same problem since 2008. The banks got the money, they're running off, thank you. And the rest of us are going, what's fair about this? They took my money and they gave it to the banks and nothing has come back down. So much for that trickle-down effect. Okay. What it really boils down to is this. People to keep themselves and their families comfortable in a house, in an apartment, in a condominium, even in their trailer home, will continue working even when they know their job is wrong. If you're given a choice between work and lose your job, which means lose your home, lose your security, lose your bank account, all of that, which do you think you would choose? Some people would say, oh, well, I would leave the job. I have a higher moral standards. And there are people that would do that. But I would say in our present day, you're probably a minority. You're not in the majority. So for a police officer to say, I'm going to lose my job, and who's going to hire me when they knew that I was a police officer? When I was doing things that were wrong, now I'm going to have to work in society, and somebody can go, oh, you're not a police officer. I remember when you had a badge and a gun, and you were abusing your authority. That cop doesn't want to lose his job. He has his brotherhood to stand behind him. Now, this is not to say that all cops are bad. But just as everything in the news these days goes, if you don't know anyone that's black, you assume, because what you see in the news, every black person speaks, the phrase is out there, so I'm going to use it. They speak Ebonics. They're people that are unclean, uncouth. They're very common. But that's the way the media presents it, because that's the only way the media wants to show you. It's like saying nowadays that every person that is from the Middle East is bad. Every person that is of the Islamic faith is going to chop your head off, or they're going to do a suicide bomb on you. Not true. Not true on either account. Or in reverse is to say that every white person out there is wealthy, who is also in control of some part of society or the financial system, or was a former slave owner. None of that is true. Those types of generalities is what divides us. And unfortunately, we fall for it. This is what government wants us to do. They want us to be divided. You can control a divided people. I hate that person because I hate this group because I hate that group because you're controlled and you don't see it and you don't know it. Now you do. Now the question is, what do you do with the knowledge? You're being controlled by your hatred of someone else. That is not love. That is conformity to someone else who is pulling your strings. We have choices every day. And every day, it seems the majority of us, I want to talk about those who are actually, I hate using this expression, but waking up to the reality that we have been and are still being manipulated by some unseen hand that's human. This is the time that we live in, and I don't know if we can actually get out of this. I don't know if we can get out of this alive. I mean that because in one of my other thoughts, I was talking about how is there, actually asking the question, is there any way that we can actually control our destiny as much as we would like to think we can? What we are experiencing now, it is partly our fault. I say partly because I believe there is a creator. And I'm going to go beyond belief. I know that there is a creator. And with that knowledge, with that experience, which is called wisdom, I wonder how much of what we're living is something that we can change, or do we have to go through it so we see something in the end result? In other words, are we living a story that was written loosely for us? Because we have, to some ability, the ability of free will. We can choose how we want to live. So with that in mind, what do? How do we live our life? How are we supposed to live our lives? Are we supposed to do our best and I don't want to say reap a reward, but I know there's some people that would yell, that's the way it's supposed to be. Well, okay, reap a reward, yes. The reward for our actions. Well, there's your wheel within a wheel. There is another wheel within a wheel. Which, if we look at life honestly, most everything that we do, there's a wheel within a wheel, within another wheel, within another wheel. But then again, how many cells does it take to make a body? How many nerve endings do we have in our body? We're not just one, if you want to take this and change it a little bit, we're not an island. In other words, we're not just one little cell like an amoeba, just living and existing on our own. But we have choices. And within those choices, what are we doing to ourselves? Like any other benevolent father or parent, we're allowed to be ourselves, which is something something that we should emulate within our own lives, because many of us like to work on the form of conformity. We would rather somebody conform to our way of life because we know better than everybody else. But we have the freedom to choose. There's an old expression, and I'm going to bring this to an end here fairly soon. There's an old expression, you can vote yourself into slavery, but you cannot vote yourself out of slavery. Now, whether that's at the polls when you go to vote, because today is supposed to be that day of voting for the United States anyway, midterm elections. So, even if you're not one who votes in an election, but you're one who lives, who functions, who has a voice, whether it's verbal or written, you have a voice, and your daily life says, I am conforming, or I'm living a life of unconditional love. I am living unconditional love. You, me, and everybody else has the right to exist and to live according to their own ways as long as they're not harming anyone else. As long as we're not as long as we're not hurting or harming anyone else. Not they, us. We are they. So, can I live in harmony with all that exists, or do we feel the need to continue to destroy not only ourselves, but each other and the world we're created from? Because every bit of damage we give to someone else and to the world we live on and in is a reflection of who we are and how we live. Wheel within a wheel. Life is your gift. The planet is your gift. How long are you going to give your free will to somebody else? How long are you going to say, yes, I owe somebody else for my existence on the planet that I was born on? that was given to me by whoever created this place. I'm speaking in general terms. But nonetheless, how long are you going to allow it to be? This is your home. This is your life. It's your free will that I'm asking you to take a look at. I'm asking you to take a look at love and life and see the wheel is very simple. Make your choice. Today's a voting day, but it's also your life. How are you going to live it from here on? With that, I bring the show to a close. We're on Stitcher, iTunes, podcast.com, RSS feed, and YouTube. All media players are supported on smartphones, tablets, and computers. As I hear, they're also on your car radio. Once you found your favorite media player, please subscribe to it for future shows and all the archive shows. And you can follow us on Twitter and on Facebook, our blog, and our website. You can find all that information on our website, which is www.kwave6radio.tk. That's kwave6radio.tk. And we also ask that you support our advertisers. And if you missed any of their commercials, you can always find them on our website under the tab that reads Advertisers. If you do have any suggestions, questions, comments, or just want to give us a shout out, just saying, hi, I'm listening to you and I'm in this city and or country, please send it to info@kwave6radio.tk. With that, we're going to close today's show, but we'll see you again on Thursday. Take care and be well.
Thank you for being part of our audience. For more information about K-Wave 6 Radio and the services we offer, go to www.kwave6radio.tk. Have a wonderful day.